For Vulcan 1106, have you ever wondered what those little orange thingies are? They're totally underwater sea tubes. They're like submarines for your hands.
It is a rainy mess out there today. Good morning. It's Saturday. And we've gone from the highest, hottest temperatures in Parisian history to like fall weather. It's fantastic. It's a nice break. We absolutely need it, and hopefully it replenishes the water tables before things get dry. That's enough about the ecology of the Parisian environment. Today I'm kind of debating what to do exactly. As far as you're concerned, I thought I'd tell you a little bit about how I ended up here in this environment, but I also want to go over to my office, and this is the perfect weather for a hot coffee, and I kind of want to have some coffee and sit in my office and work a little bit. It's not just work. The thing I want to do is I actually want to draw out like the measurements of the room and kind of start sketching and imagining what I want to do with the space now that it's empty and mine. And so, yeah, let's go do that. And in the meantime, in the midst of that, around it, and probably after it as well, I'll tell you a little bit about how I ended up here in Paris, of all places. It's a happy story. I just haven't had coffee yet. I'll perk up shortly, don't worry.
I've lived in France before. I actually moved here like 10 years ago, right out of college, and taught English, which was great. It was the dream. I've always wanted to be here. I don't know why. I studied French in high school and then ended up majoring in it in college, which is a mistake. I actually went to college for film school, decided that I hated, my professors. Actually, not even my professors, like Hall, but mostly the director of the program, and just wasn't really into the program and was kind of insecure at the time, and just I already had a French minor, so might as well just make that a major, I figured, and enjoy college, because that was before the recession and all you needed was a degree and then you'd get a job. We all know how that turned out. But moving to France is pretty great. I enjoyed Nice okay. It was a learning experience. It wasn't my first time in Europe. My first time in Europe was actually in Italy. But I'd never left the country until about halfway through college. And it was a learning experience. And it was great. I wanted to be here. But I didn't really want to be in Nice. And then I came up to Paris with my parents at the end of my time in Nice and was like, why wasn't I here the whole time? So I made it my goal to get back here. It was exactly what I always wanted. I just never knew that it was here. It's the weekends. It's a lot longer wait for the metro in the end.
It took me a long time to get back to France though. From Nice to Paris again. I think I lived in like 4 other countries before I got here. It's a whole other story. I joined an organization called Mercy Ships, and that bounced me around quite a bit. And during the time I was working with Mercy Ships is when I would make it back to Paris, but it wasn't meant to last, unfortunately. It's hard to stay here if you're an American. I am so excited to be here. Okay. Side note for those of you that are recent additions to the channel and never been around before, I just got an office. I've been wanting an office forever, years. Never knew when the right time to pull the trigger was or was going to be, and hey, we are here. We are here now. Just as this is really, really, really in the minutia. But one of the things I'm most excited about is the second charger that I bought for my laptop, which I can leave here, which means I can work here as long as I want, and even finish my work and leave my laptop here, which is something I'm going to be very tempted to do tonight for the very first time. I might just edit my vlog from here and upload it. I know that that's like way off of what we're talking about today. It's kind of sweaty in here. I need to open the window. But oh my gosh, I'm so excited for life right now. I even have like a million places that I can put all the stickers from the game. Postcards and all that stuff. I can put it here. Kate can get to it if she needs to send stuff. And then we can get it all done from like one centralized location. It's pretty obvious what an office is good for. It's just blowing my mind a little bit right now. So back to the whole, like, you know, once upon a time I was trying to get to Paris story. It's really hard not to share the view. It's actually pretty nice. I joined an organization called Mercy Ships between, well, the recession hit. Basically, the short of it is, taught English in Nice, went back to the States, had a decent job lined up, recession hit, everything fell apart. It was miserable for a couple of years doing just hodgepodge random jobs along the way. And then, fortunately, my parents were looking to make a change. They stumbled across Mercy Ships, or they were excited to do it. And I ended up joining this organization called Mercy Ships, which runs the world's largest charity hospital ship. It's basically a mobile surgical unit with 5 operating theaters that goes from country to country on the western coast of Africa, spending 5 or 10 months in each location, give or take, doing surgery, healing people, moving on to the next place. It was a really good experience. And in the midst of that, I've actually been writing about this because I'm writing a book about a lot of this. For those of you who want the like nitty gritty, like the real details of how I ended up in Paris and some stories I haven't told. But basically, I was going kind of crazy on the ship and I needed a big change. Like I genuinely needed a change. So thankfully I had enough foresight to apply to be an English teacher here in France again, Paris this time. Managed to get the job and it lined up really well with the transition point in the organization. And I hopped on another job for Mercy Ships Global, which is based out of Switzerland, as a writer and an editor, and was able to move to Paris on the English teaching visa. And that's how I ended up here the first time. And it was great and also kind of miserable. And there's a whole story in there about like how I didn't have a place to live, how I was sleeping on a wood floor that looked very similar to this wood floor underneath me right now, and then wound up with the apartment that I have now. A story I've told before, a story I'm writing about in the book, a story that you'll just have to either go find or wait for the book to come out to, you know, hear more of the details about. Also, try to throw some stuff in there that I've never said before, you know, here, there, and everywhere.
What? Yeah, okay, I noticed something already. Thank
Yeah.
you. Who gave them to you?
Those ones were from Michelle, the woman that gave me the bag.
Kate and I decided to get burgers because, you know, I'm trying to make myself cheat today. My brain is not working anymore. It's crazy. I've gone probably like 10 days without eating fries or something like that. I'm definitely feeling it, like feeling them working their way through my brain. I didn't even finish them. Whew. It's hard to stay concentrated. All I want to do is take a nap. Anywho, cheat day aside, really the basis of everything is that I just always wanted to be here for one reason or another. I don't even know why. I had a really good time the first time that I lived here, but I struggled a fair amount for a number of reasons, which I think is normal, both because I was, you know, a volunteer on a hospital ship. I wasn't making much money, but also because, yeah, I was just in flux and I wasn't able to stay. Like my visa ran out after 8 months or so, and then I had an additional 3 months to stick around. So I was here for about a total of 10 in the end. I mean, when I left, I was sad to leave, but I was also really ready for it. I always knew that I would come back one way or another. I went to the Congo, was media liaison there, really enjoyed it, worked with a bunch of media teams while I was there. It's how I know Nick from CNRS, among other people. Went back to the States, worked on electronic medical records for a while, and just like entered depths of, I don't know if like full on depression, but I struggled because Paris is one part of what I want from life. I mean, I feel at home here. I want to be here. I want this to be my home base. That said, being kind of a self-determined creative, like being able to really focus on the things I want to make. I want to write more science fiction and fantasy down the line. I want to spend a lot more time on that. I love making videos. Just being able to do something that I love, like vlogging every day, has been something that I've really, really enjoyed. And have that be the thing, have that be what I do, is really central to what I've always wanted. And so I took this consulting job that I took because I could reinvest that money into the Nanton, a big project that I was putting on. Paid for a lot of artwork, some voice acting, did a lot of fun stuff, and in the end it didn't go anywhere. And neither did the other book that I had written for a publisher, it didn't get picked up. I had a tech company that I was founding with a bunch of friends in California, that didn't go anywhere. It was not a fun time in life for a lot of reasons. And to save money, I moved back in with my parents eventually. Once the consulting dried up, moved in with my folks, lived with them for a year. They were super supportive and I'm really, really grateful for them. In the midst of that though, I was really, really struggling. Not making any money. Spokane,
doesn't really value, Spokane doesn't really value me, let's just say, specifically, at least in my experience. The highest calling that I could have in Spokane appears to be moving couches. And that's what I ended up doing, was moving couches, trying to launch a company, trying to do all this other stuff. It all fell apart and I didn't know what to do with myself. And on a lark, I ended up coming back to Paris just to see some friends and to get a break. That's all in the vlog. Like we're in vlog territory now when we talk about launching the companies, going to the Caribbean, coming here and realizing this is where I want to be. I need to do whatever I can to come back here because I really legitimately figured it would save my life in a similar way that vlogging had saved my life. Definitely do not need my sweatshirt anymore. And I wasn't wrong. I mean, at the end of the day, getting back to Paris absolutely saved me in a number of ways. It wasn't necessarily initially the best financial decision. Not making a ton of money hanging out here in Paris right off the bat. I was struggling, in fact, but I was so fortunate to be here, and just the environment of this city, whatever it is about the city and me, it was invigorating and it gave me a sense of life that I hadn't had in a really long time, and it really helped me to get back on the right path in so many ways. That's not to say I didn't struggle. I struggled a lot. That's all, like I said, in the vlog. Once I got here, I still had jobs that fell through. I still was working multiple jobs to make ends meet. I was doing tour guiding, web development, voice acting, whatever I could to get everything to work out. And it was quite the struggle, but I ended up in Paris largely because I wanted to be here. And there are things that got me here that were very helpful. Getting a degree in the language was certainly helpful, even though I wouldn't recommend you get a degree in French. It was definitely helpful. Having a track record here, having already lived overseas a number of times so that I was pretty ready to jump in here and not be super overwhelmed by the experience. And having already lived here twice before in France also helped a lot with that. And of course, having lived here last time, found an apartment that I could keep, that was life-changing. And if it hadn't been for my landlady letting me stay where I live for free, none of this would have been possible in the end. And that's a huge differentiator. I may not have had much, but at least I had a place to sleep. That made a huge difference. That's why I can have this place. That's why I can move into a new office, is because instead of paying rent on an apartment, I can invest that in building something out of my vlog, out of my writing with the team that I'm developing. And I'm really excited to do that. I think that's more or less how I got from struggling to build anything in Spokane to having my own office in Paris. And it is crazy to think that I'm here and that this is mine. I'm really excited for this next chapter, even though I have almost no clue what's actually going on. Hopefully you tracked along with that just fine, and I hope you're having a wonderful weekend wherever it is you are. Tomorrow, I'm gonna be going on a very early morning ride through Paris. Tomorrow's the Tour de France. And Bike About Tours, every year, they do a special deal where at 6:30 in the morning, you can hop on a bike and take a ride through Paris on the route that the Tour de France is gonna take a few hours later. I don't wanna go mingle with crowds. I really don't feel like cramming my way in just to see some bikes go by really quick, but I do feel like riding on my wheel and hanging out with a bunch of people early in the morning. That sounds mostly fun. Getting up early, not so fun, especially right now when all I wanna do is take a nap. But I'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning for that. Very early for that. And I hope that your Sunday is fantastic and that you're staying cool. Oh, also one last thing. I probably should have thrown this in earlier. I'm really close to 10K over on Instagram. If you want to go follow me on Instagram, you haven't followed me yet on Instagram, please do. I'm also going to be getting all the postcards ready here soon. I need to finish scanning them, but we'll have the postcards printed for patrons here shortly. So if you want to jump on that, make sure you do as well. And I'll see you tomorrow morning for, mostly just wheeling around in Paris. Till then.